Okay, so AI, right? It's everywhere you look these days, but what's the real story?
Right. Everyone's talking about it, but are we just like chasing buzzwords?
We're going deep on this one. We're diving into AI with Wojciech Zaremba,
No way! OpenAI, the ChatGPT guy.
the one and only. He co-founded the whole thing. And let me tell you, he has some seriously interesting thoughts about where AI is now and where it could be going, like what it could mean for, all of us.
Well, I've heard him say AI isn't just like fancy statistics, which that's a pretty common take, right?
Yeah.
But he's got skin in the game, right? He's been working on this stuff for a while. Copilot, Codex.
Right. Those are some of his brainchildren.
Exactly. And they're already changing how we work, how we code. So when he says he sees something more, something deeper happening with AI, well, I'm definitely listening.
He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. And he uses this example, maybe you've heard it, about AI and recognizing handwritten digits. Like, imagine you train an AI to recognize the number 7.
Okay. Seems pretty basic.
Right. Basic pattern recognition.
Yeah.
But then, and this is the mind-blowing part, you tweak the image,
Tweak it how?
like just 1 pixel, in a way the AI has never seen before.
Yeah.
And it still gets it right. It understands 7, not just that specific pattern of pixels.
Whoa. So it's not just memorizing, it's like actually understanding the concept.
Which throws that whole just statistics argument out the window.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what else AI could be capable of if it can do that.
Exactly. But there's a big hurdle. Context.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
That's the big one, right?
And Zaremba tells this story about a self-driving car in San Francisco.
Okay.
This thing got, like, torched. Torches, like, set on fire.
Set on fire. But not because it hurt anyone.
Yeah.
It interrupted a religious procession.
Oh, no.
Didn't understand the cultural context.
Oh, wow. Talk about a PR nightmare. But it makes you think, right? Like, we take that stuff for granted, knowing when to, yield or when it's okay to honk or...
It's all those subtle cues.
Exactly.
And that's where things get interesting. Zaremba thinks the key is going multimodal.
Multimodal. So, like, not just images.
Not just images. We're talking text, videos, even sounds.
Yeah.
Feeding it all the data.
Interesting. Like, giving the AI a more well-rounded education.
Exactly. So it can start to piece together a more, human understanding of the world.
Okay, but that brings up another question, a big one. If we don't fully understand things like, say, gravity or consciousness,
Oh, yeah.
how can we create an AI that does...
Did he really think that's possible?
He admits it's a limitation with how we're building AI now.
Right.
We're mostly trying to replicate our own knowledge, which might be putting a cap on what AI can achieve. But then he mentions this other path, reinforcement learning.
Oh, right. That's where it learns by doing, right? Trial and error.
Exactly. Like, imagine a kid figuring out how to ride a bike. They don't read a manual. They just keep trying until they get it.
Right.
And the crazy thing is, with reinforcement learning, AI is already doing things we never thought possible. He used the game Go as an example. Way more complex than chess.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With Go, it's like deep.
And AI, using reinforcement learning, discovered totally new moves, new strategies, stuff humans had never thought of in thousands of years of playing.
Get out.
I know.
Okay, that's both amazing and a little terrifying.
Right.
Because if it can outthink us in Go, what else could it do?
Exactly. And to understand where this is all going, he lays out these 5 levels of AI development.
5 levels.
5 levels. It's like a roadmap for the future of AI.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Level 1 is what we're seeing now with ChatGPT, passing the Turing test. You can't tell if you're talking to a machine or a human.
Right.
Level 2, though, gets wild. He calls it 10-minute reasoning.
10-minute reasoning. So, like, not just quick answers anymore.
Not at all. This is AI that can think through complex problems, things that would take you a good 10 minutes to really wrap your head around.
Okay.
And potentially come up with solutions you hadn't even considered.
I am hooked. Tell me more about these levels. What's next?
Level 3 is where we get AI agents. Not just chatbots, but AI that can actually do things. Like, imagine an AI that manages your schedule, books your flights, maybe even does your grocery shopping.
Okay, that does sound pretty amazing.
Right.
Like having a personal assistant who's also a supercomputer.
Exactly. And it learns and adapts as it goes. Thinks about how much time and mental energy that could free up.
Okay, but that's just level 3, right?
Yeah.
There's more.
Oh, there's more. Level 4 is AI scientists. dedicated research teams that never sleep, never get tired, and can analyze mountains of data in seconds.
That's like putting scientific discovery on fast forward. Imagine the breakthroughs. Medicine, climate change.
Exactly. And because they wouldn't be limited by human biases, they could explore entirely new avenues of research.
Okay, so AI scientists, level 4, that's pretty wild. What could possibly top that? What's the final level?
Level 5 is where Zaremba envisions AI running entire organizations. Think CEOs, presidents, all replaced by AI making complex decisions with incredible efficiency. It's mind-blowing to even consider.
Mind-blowing, yeah. But also kind of terrifying. Like AI making decisions that affect millions of people.
It's a huge question, right? And it makes you think, whose values are these AI prioritizing?
Right. Whose values are they using to make those decisions?
Exactly. And that leads us to one of the biggest, most debated topics in AI consciousness. Can AI actually become self-aware?
That's some real sci-fi stuff right there.
Right. Can it feel emotions? Can it have subjective experiences like we do?
Does Zaremba think it's possible?
He doesn't claim to have a definitive answer, but he does offer some really interesting thoughts. Like, he talks about consciousness as the experience of the simulation.
The experience of the simulation. What does that even mean?
He's suggesting that our brains are constantly building a kind of virtual reality based on the information we take in through our senses.
So like our brains are constantly creating a simulation of the world around us.
Exactly. And he wonders if AI could develop a similar kind of internal world, a simulated reality that it experiences as its own.
Wow. Okay, so if AI can experience the world in a way that's similar to how humans do, even if it's a simulation, does that make it conscious?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And he doesn't pretend to know the answer for sure, but he does propose some fascinating experiments to try to figure it out.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
One of his ideas involves hiding any mention of consciousness from the AI's training data.
What? Like no books about consciousness, no articles?
Nothing. The AI would never encounter the concept.
Okay.
The idea is to see if the AI ever brings it up on its own.
Whoa. So it's like raising a kid in a world where the concept of thinking doesn't exist, and then seeing if they ever come up with the idea on their own.
Exactly. Like, is consciousness something that emerges naturally from intelligence, or is it something that has to be explicitly programmed?
Okay, that's wild. What's the other experiment?
The other one is even wilder, if you can believe it.
Okay, hit me.
He talks about connecting an AI to a human brain.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Like plug it in.
Not to control the brain or anything like that. He's talking about observing how the AI's internal state changes when it's directly interacting with the neural activity of a conscious being.
Okay, now that is some next level stuff.
Right.
But the idea is to see if the AI picks up on something unique about the human brain, right?
Exactly. Something that we haven't been able to measure or define with our current scientific instruments.
Something that might be the key to understanding consciousness itself.
Exactly. And that's what makes his thinking so exciting. He's not afraid to ask the really big, really difficult questions, even if they make our heads spin a little.
He's pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible, not just with AI, but with our understanding of ourselves.
He really is. But it's not all thought experiments and philosophical deep dives.
Oh.
Zaremba also has a lot to say about the very real, very practical implications of AI and how it's going to affect all of us.
Okay, good. Because I was starting to feel like I needed a philosophy degree to follow along.
Right. We can get into the weeds pretty quickly with this stuff, but he brings it back down to earth. He talks about how AI will impact our daily lives, our jobs, our societies. And he's not just talking about some distant future. We're talking about changes that are happening right now and that are only going to accelerate in the coming years.
Okay, well, let's hear it. How does Zaremba see AI actually changing the world? Give me the good, the bad, and the potentially ugly.
Let's start with the economic impact, because let's face it, that's something that's going to touch everyone's lives.
For sure. Everyone cares about their bottom line.
Exactly. And Zaremba talks about AI shifting us from a zero-sum game to a positive-sum game.
Okay, hold on. Zero sum, positive sum. Now you're just throwing around economics jargon.
Fair enough. Let me explain. Think of it this way. For a long time, economic progress was seen as this limited pie. If one person got a bigger slice, someone else had to get a smaller one.
Ah, okay. Like a constant battle over resources.
Exactly. But Zaremba believes that AI, much like the Industrial Revolution before it, has the potential to make the pie bigger for everyone.
So it's not just about redistributing the wealth, it's about creating more wealth in the first place.
Exactly. He thinks AI could unlock entirely new levels of productivity and create opportunities that we can't even imagine right now.
Okay, that does sound pretty optimistic. But we've heard that before about new technologies, right?
Yeah.
And often the benefits don't end up being distributed very fairly.
That's the key point. And it's something that Zaremba acknowledges. He's very aware of the potential for AI to exacerbate existing inequalities if we're not careful.
Right.
That's why he's so interested in exploring new economic models like universal basic income that could ensure a more equitable distribution of the benefits of AI.
So it's not enough to just build the technology. We have to think about the social and economic structures that are going to shape how it's used.
100%. And Zaremba isn't just talking about this stuff in some abstract way. He's putting his money where his mouth is, literally.
Oh, really? How so?
He's involved in this project called WorldCoin.
WorldCoin. Okay, now we're really getting into the future. What is this, something straight out of a sci-fi novel?
It's pretty wild, right? So it uses blockchain technology and iris scanning.
Okay, hold on. Iris scanning? Like scanning your eye?
Yeah, like your eyeball becomes your ID.
That's both cool and creepy at the same time.
Right. But the idea is to create this new kind of digital identity, one that everyone on Earth could have. And the big goal is to use that to implement a universal basic income.
Whoa. So everyone gets paid no matter what.
That's the idea, regardless of your job, your wealth, anything. It's about creating a safety net as AI changes the employment landscape.
I mean, it's a radical idea, but you got to admit it's thinking big.
Totally. And it shows you the kind of things Zaremba is thinking about. He's not afraid to consider solutions that are outside the box, trying to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, he's not waiting around for someone else to fix it. He's rolling up his sleeves and diving in.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about him. It'll be easy to just focus on the tech, the algorithms, all that stuff.
Right.
But he's thinking about the human side of it, too.
Totally. He even talks about the importance of love and connection, finding meaning in a world that's changing so rapidly.
Which, let's be honest, is something we all struggle with, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the technology, the hype.
All of it.
But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure out how to be human in this crazy world.
Right. And I think that's what makes Zaremba so interesting. He's not just trying to build smarter machines, He's trying to understand what it means to be human in the age of AI.
And it's not just talk. Did you hear about what he did for his old high school?
In Poland. Yeah, I read about that.
Incredibly generous donation. He could have invested that money in anything, any startup he wanted.
For sure.
But he chose to give back to his community.
Exactly. It shows you where his values are at. It's not just about making money or even just advancing technology. It's about using his success to make a real difference in the world.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the potential benefits of AI, the risks, the ethical dilemmas. But I want to circle back to this idea of how AI will actually play out in the real world. What are Zaremba's predictions?
Well, he's cautiously optimistic. He sees AI having the potential to address some huge global challenges like climate change and poverty. Imagine AI-powered solutions that help us create a more sustainable and equitable world.
Okay, that's the dream scenario. But what about the flip side? Because let's be honest, we've all seen those sci-fi movies where the AI turns on us.
Right, and he's not naive to that. He talks about this needing to be a conversation about ethics, especially as AI gets more powerful. We have to make sure it's used for good.
And that's the challenge, right? Because technology itself doesn't have morals. It's a tool. It's all about how we choose to use it.
Exactly. And that's why he keeps emphasizing responsible AI development. We can't just build it and hope for the best. We need ethical guidelines, safety protocols, the whole 9 yards.
So it's about thinking ahead, anticipating the potential consequences, not just getting caught up in the excitement of the technology.
Right. And it's a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of. It's not just up to the tech companies or the governments.
This is a human issue, not just a technology issue.
Exactly. And it's like that old saying, with great power comes great responsibility, and AI has the potential to be incredibly powerful.
For sure. So how do we navigate this? How do we ensure that AI is a force for good in the world?
Well, Zaremba believes that the future isn't set in stone. It's not some preordained outcome that we're powerless to change.
So we have a say in how this all plays out.
We do. The decisions we make today, the conversations we have, the actions we take, they all matter.
Okay, that's both empowering and a little daunting,
Right. It's a big responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity. We have the chance to shape the future of intelligence, both artificial and human. And to me, that's pretty exciting.
I like that. Shaping the future of intelligence. That's a great way to think about it. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there's one more aspect of Zaremba's perspective that I think is worth exploring. His thoughts on the nature of intelligence and consciousness.
Okay, yeah. We touched on that earlier, but it's definitely worth diving deeper because this is where things get really mind-bending.
Right, we're talking about the big questions now. What does it mean to be conscious? Can machines truly think?
Exactly. And what I love about Zaremba is that he's not afraid to grapple with these questions, even if there aren't any easy answers. He really does. He's got some pretty profound things to say about it. Like, he talks about consciousness as the experience of the simulation.
Right, right. We were getting into that in the last part. Our brains are basically building a virtual reality based on what we're sensing. Sight, sound, touch, all of it.
Exactly. And he suggests that maybe, just maybe, AI could develop something similar, like an internal world, a simulation that it experiences as its own.
So the big question is, if AI can experience the world in a way that's similar to how we do, even if it's, artificial, does that make it conscious?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's a tough one. He doesn't claim to have a definitive answer, but he does bring up these fascinating experiments, like thought experiments, ways we might be able to explore this further.
Okay, yeah, I love a good thought experiment. Remind me, how would those work?
So one idea is, what if we completely avoided mentioning consciousness when we're training AI?
Like, never teach it about consciousness.
Exactly. No books, no articles, no conversations about self-awareness or anything like that.
Interesting.
And then we'd see if the AI ever spontaneously mentions it or displays any signs of being self-aware.
Wow. So it's like raising a child in a world where thinking isn't a concept, and then seeing if they ever come up with it on their own.
Exactly. It's a way to see if consciousness just kind of emerges from intelligence or if it's something that has to be explicitly taught.
Okay, that's wild. But I thought you said he had another experiment.
He did, and this one's even more mind-boggling. He talks about connecting an AI to a human brain.
Wait. Like physically connecting them.
Not to control the brain or anything like that. It'd be more about observing how the AI's internal state changes when it's directly interacting with the neural activity of a conscious being.
Okay, that's definitely next level stuff. But I can see how it would be valuable, maybe even necessary, to really understand what's happening.
Right. It's about trying to measure the immeasurable, to see if there's something unique about the human brain, something we haven't been able to capture or even define with our current technology.
Something that might hold the key to understanding consciousness itself, whether it's ours or an AI's.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about Zaremba's perspective. He's not afraid to ask these big fundamental questions, even if the answers seem impossible to find. He's pushing us to expand our thinking, to imagine possibilities we might have never considered before.
He's challenging us to really think about what it means to be intelligent, to be conscious, to be human, in a world where those lines are starting to get really, really blurry.
It's true. But, it's not all heady philosophical debates and thought experiments. He also brings it back down to earth, talks about how AI will impact our day-to-day lives, our jobs, the way our societies function.
Right. Because as much as I love a good mind-bending conversation about consciousness, there's a part of me that's also wondering, how is this all going to affect me personally? What will my life actually look like in 5-10 years?
It's a question we all have, right? And honestly, it's impossible to say for sure, but Zaremba does offer some interesting insights. Like, he thinks AI will become increasingly integrated into our daily routines. Think AI assistants that not only manage your schedule and your to-do lists, but can also, negotiate better deals on your bills or help you write that perfect email.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely use an AI to handle my inbox. That would be amazing.
Right, and that's just scratching the surface. He talks about AI transforming healthcare, education, transportation.
Okay, but on a bigger level, do you think we'll even recognize ourselves in a world that's increasingly shaped by AI?
That's the billion-dollar question. And honestly, I don't think anyone has a crystal ball. But Zaremba seems to think we'll adapt. He makes this comparison to the invention of the printing press.
Interesting.
Back then, people probably couldn't have imagined how profoundly it would change the world, the spread of knowledge, the way we communicate, everything. But society found a way to adjust. And he thinks the same thing will happen with AI.
That's a good point. We often overestimate the short-term impact of these technological leaps,
Yeah.
but underestimate the long-term ones.
Exactly. But of course, the printing press didn't have the potential to become self-aware or, start making its own decisions. So it is a bit different.
It's a whole different ballgame. So how do we prepare for that? And not just for ourselves, but for, future generations.
He's a big believer in education, and not just teaching kids how to code, although that's important too. He says we need to teach them how to think critically about technology,
Oh, I like that.
help them understand its limitations, its potential downsides, the ethical implications. We need people who can build AI, of course, but we also need people who can ask the tough questions about how it's used and what kind of future we're creating with it.
It's almost like we need a whole new field of study, like the philosophy of technology.
Totally. Because the tech is developing so rapidly, it's easy to get swept up in the what and lose sight of the why. But ultimately, we have a choice in how this all plays out.
And that brings us back to that fundamental question we started with.
Yeah.
What do we want the future of AI to look like?
It's a question worth asking ourselves, honestly. Because it's not just about the algorithms or the hardware or any of the technical stuff. It's about our values, the problems we choose to focus on, the kind of world we want to create for ourselves and for future generations.
And I think what I appreciate most about Zaremba is that he's not just a brilliant technologist. He's a thoughtful human being.
100%.
He's asking those tough questions, challenging us to think differently, and ultimately reminding us that we're all in this together.
It's not humans versus machines. It's about finding a way for both to thrive.
Exactly. It's about using our collective intelligence, both artificial and human, to build a better future. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for taking us on this journey with Zaremba.
Of course, it's been my pleasure. These are important conversations to be having, and it's exciting to see more and more people engaging with these questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because as Zaremba has shown us, the future of intelligence isn't predetermined. It's something that we're actively shaping right now with every choice we make.
So let's choose wisely.
Couldn't agree more. To everyone listening, keep asking questions, keep exploring these topics, and let's shape the future together.